The night was settling in, a thick blanket of darkness whispering secrets across the winding streets of a small town. The street lamps flickered to life, casting an orange glow that shimmered off the damp pavement. A predictable quiet fell over the neighborhood, but then from somewhere down the lonely avenue, a forlorn sound cut through the silence, a sorrowful whimper, echoing like a haunting melody. A stray dog, bedraggled and thin, stood at the door of an unassuming house. His fur was matted and his bones jutted sharply against his skin. He looked up pleadingly at the window, his eyes a poignant mix of hope and despair. Each desperate whine seemed to tug at the heartstrings of the night, a call for help that carried through the air like a silent scream. Inside the house, Sarah was curled up on her couch, scrolling through a series of TikTok videos, oblivious to the outside world. The dim light from her phone illuminated her tired face, and a heavy sigh escaped her lips. It had been a long week, work had piled upon her, and the weight of her thoughts pressed down like an unwelcome fog. She rolled her eyes, distracted by her fatigue, when suddenly a soft yet persistent scratching noise lured her attention away from the glow of her screen. Curious, she peered toward the window. That's when she first noticed the dog sitting on the porch. His fur gleamed under the faint streetlight, and big, brown eyes filled with unshed tears stared back at her. But alongside that flickering ember of concern was an undeniable annoyance. After all, strays were common here, and she'd seen many knock on doors that had never opened for them. "Just go away," Sarah muttered under her breath, returning to the comfort of her videos. But the dog had no plans of leaving. His whimpers grew louder, more urgent, a raw plea blending desperation and courage. It was as if he sensed something that Sarah could not. Moments trickled by, but the dog remained a steadfast sentinel, a guardian of questions unasked. Each last whine dripped with an emotional weight that hung in the thick evening air, creating a tension that promised something unspeakable. Intrigued, Sarah squinted harder, attempting to peer through the darkness and understand what was prompting his unyielding insistence. That's when her heart began to race. Just past the dog in the shadows, something shifted, something small, barely visible, lay crumbled against the porch steps. Disoriented, she couldn't make out what it was, but curiosity clawed at her, awakening a part of her that had long been dulled by routine. Maybe she should check it out. Holding her breath, she reached for the door. As she opened it slowly, the cool night air washed over her, mingling with the dust of uncertainty. The moment she stepped outside, the dog bounded forward, tail rising like an unfurled flag of joy despite his trembling body. But Sarah wasn't there for the dog. She was drawn to whatever lay at his feet. Her heart thudded heavily in her chest, echoing like a drum as she approached the porch stairs. The shadows danced around her, trepidation coursing through her veins. What could possibly be waiting for her there? As she knelt down, the world shrank into a single, simplistic focus, and her breath hitched. Wrapped in a makeshift blanket was an abandoned puppy, no more than a few weeks old, its tiny body curled up against the cold. It was unassuming and fragile, yet somehow its wide eyes held an ancient wisdom. The stray dog, its big brother, nudged the little one gently with his snout, a silent promise that he would never let it go without love or protection. Overwhelmed by the palpable bond between them, Sarah felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. In that moment, she recognized the depth of the sacrifice. The stray dog had not only arrived at her door as a cry for help, but had also brought with him a tiny soul, vulnerable and in desperate need. Sarah whispered, half mindlessly, half incredulously. She glanced back at the stray, who met her gaze with a mixture of relief and urgency. He wagged his tail, as if urging her to see beyond fear and fatigue and into the possibility of something astounding. The realization hit her with force. She could refuse to help, turn away, and continue to wallow in her own worries, or she could embrace the unexpected call to action set forth before her. It was a choice that could shift her world. Gathering the courage to break through her hesitation, Sarah scooped up the puppy, cradling it in her arms. The little creature shivered and nuzzled into her warmth, instinctively seeking safety. She looked into the stray dog's eyes once more, and in that moment of connection, something deep inside her flickered back to life, the simple innocence of compassion, igniting the caverns of her heart that had long been untouched. "Come on, let's get you both warm," she said softly, her voice spilling into the night like a gentle breeze, binding them together in an unforeseen bond. She turned back toward the house, with the tiny puppy nestled safely against her chest and the stray dog following closely at her heels. Inside, Sarah gave them each a bowl of water, watching in awe as the dog lapped gratefully, while the puppy hesitantly took timid sips. It was a simple moment, but it shimmered with the promise of something deep and transformative. Just days ago, Sarah had felt that familiar emptiness and isolation pulsing through her, but now she was anchored to a greater reality, one filled with unspoken loyalty and love eked out against the cracks of desolation. As the moon peeked through the clouds, casting ethereal shadows across the room, an unexpected warmth spread through her heart. In the days that followed, the trio formed a tight-knit family. Sarah named the stray dog Max and the puppy Bella, dreams forming in the corners of her mind as she watched them play, wrestle, and curl up together on the couch. Every day, she discovered pieces of joy. Max had an unyielding spirit and a big heart, always nudging Bella with the gentlest touch if she ever found herself stumbling. In Bella she brought laughter, her little barks echoing like music through the halls. Sarah's home had transformed into a sanctuary, no longer a place of solitude, but a refuge where bonds deepened and hearts healed. One bright Saturday afternoon, Sarah took them to the park. They ran through the grass, a radiant sun overhead, shedding golden light upon their adventures. She felt the world shift beneath her feet. Distant worries unraveled like fragile string, replaced by the vibrant pulse of life around her, a life filled with barked laughter and joyful panting. Yet with that joy came also realization. Sarah couldn't shake the reminder of the harsh realities that lingered in that same small town. Countless dogs wandered aimlessly, seeking homes just like Max and Bella once had. An ember of determination sparked inside her. From that day forth, Sarah began her mission. With Max and Bella always at her side, she volunteered tirelessly at the local animal shelter. Each adoption event became a beacon of hope as she shared their story, the tale of what was once a sorrowful cry at her door that had transformed into a love story, stitching back together the frayed edges of her heart. As she fought tirelessly for the voiceless animals, Sarah saw more than just the burdens these creatures carried. She saw the potential for redemption in every lost soul. The connection she'd formed with Max and Bella transcended physical boundaries and wrapped around her heart like an indestructible bond. And yet, on quiet nights when she felt the shadows creeping back, the memories of a derelict life flickering like a dimming star, she turned to the dogs lying peacefully at her feet. Their presence grounded her, an unspoken promise of love and loyalty. In their eyes, she found clarity. In their gentle touches, she found healing. As the years whispered by, their lives intertwined like threads in the intricate tapestry of existence. Sarah's world expanded. She became a voice for the voiceless, a champion for those seeking shelter. Every morning burst with the promise of love, and every evening echoed with laughter. And it all began with that one fateful night when a stray dog cried at her door. A moment when she chose to listen, to observe the silent plea beyond the noise of her own world. In that simple act of kindness, they all found refuge together. They forged the light through the dark. So as you walk the streets of your own life, remember those cries that brush against the corners of your awareness. Because behind every lonely bark, behind every tearful plea, there may be a story waiting to be awakened, just waiting for someone to take a step forward into the light. On a moonlit night, the quiet suburb wrapped itself in a velvet shroud. Streetlights flickered like stars struggling to shine against the remnants of a fading sunset. Most homes were dark, their occupants lost in dreams, but over at the last house on Maple Street, something stirred. A hushed whimper cut through the tranquil stillness, raw and aching. At the door of that house stood a stray dog, his coat ruffled and damp, tremors running through his thin frame. He sat there, eyes wide and pleading, a fragile spirit crumpled against the hollow ache of loneliness. With each heart-wrenching cry, he begged for just one moment of connection, of kindness. But the night only returned his sorrow with silence. Inside, Lena was sprawled out on her worn couch, her phone in hand, scrolling endlessly through social media. Her mind was heavy with the mundane work, bills, and the ever-looming deadlines. Just another day, buried in thoughts that swirled like a storm. An insistent scratching and whimpering broke through her distraction. Annoyed, she peeled her gaze away from the screen and glanced toward the window. A gust of wind howled outside, rattling the glass, and there, framed in the weak light, was that stray dog. She muttered, hoping that whoever had abandoned him would just take him away. With a huff, she returned to her phone, but the dog persisted. His cries grew louder and more desperate, pricking at the corners of her irritation. Each whimper tugged at her heart, a subtle reminder of the responsibility hidden beneath layers of indifference. Curiosity piqued, she rose with reluctance, trudging toward the door. As she swung it open, the dog whipped his head up, eyes glistening with a spark of hope. Yet, it wasn't the dog that grabbed her attention. No, it was the small shadow that nestled at his feet, a tiny, trembling pup, so fragile it seemed like a mere whisper in the world. It lay curled against the cold concrete, shivering in the autumn air. Lena gasped, her heart lurching. The sight was enough to drain the annoyance from her veins, replacing it with a surge of disbelief and compassion. A stray dog and a puppy, alone in the night, how could anyone be so cruel? "Hey there, little one," she whispered, kneeling down to get a better look at the pup. Instinctively, the stray dog pressed his body closer, a protective instinct shining through the grime and weariness etched in his fur. It was as if he understood she was a friend, a kindred spirit. For a fleeting moment, Lena's heart soared. Perhaps there was more to this encounter than a mere inconvenience. Her hands trembled as she reached for the puppy, scooping it into her arms. It weighed barely anything, its warmth a flicker of life amid the cold darkness surrounding them. The stray sat at her feet, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her shiver. "I can't keep you both," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. But the stray dog's gaze didn't waver. It seemed to hold a silent promise, a plea for salvation, for companionship they both seemed to need. A small voice inside her urged her to act. Overwhelmed by sympathy and a sudden resolve, Lena stepped back into the house. She could not turn her back on them, not now, not like this. Back in her warm living room, she set the puppy down on the soft rug and dashed to the kitchen. Her mind raced with thoughts of food and safety, but another nagging feeling tugged at her heart. Could she really do this? She returned moments later with a bowl of water and a few scraps left over from her dinner. The stray dog practically darted forward, the instinct to protect and nurture overwhelming every ounce of hunger. As he drank, the puppy hesitantly followed suit, eyes darting with uncertainty. Lena perched on the couch, uncertainty weaving through her thoughts. The stray dog turned to her, as if sensing the weight of her emotions, and laid his head gently on her lap. It was a gesture that ruptured her defenses. She reached down, feeling the warmth of his fur beneath her fingers as a wave of unexpected affection washed over her. She asked, her voice brightening, and for the first time in ages, she felt a flicker of joy. In that moment, both dogs seemed to come alive. Max's tail swayed, and Bella barked softly, the sound so small and sweet. Lena laughed, a sound that echoed in the quiet room, rekindling the fire of life within her. The bond formed in an instant, and with it, a promise emerged, one that contradicted the chaos of her recent past. Days turned into weeks, and the little family flourished. Lena discovered anew what it meant to truly connect. Max became her shadow, following her every move. His protectiveness was evident as he watched over Bella with a keen, watchful eye. Bella, in return, absorbed his quiet strength, blooming into a spirited little pup who filled their home with laughter and joy. They hiked together in sun-drenched parks, explored wooded trails, and curled up under blankets during cozy movie nights. Each moment melted the icy barriers that had once surrounded Lena's heart. Every wag of a tail, every shared bark filled her surroundings with color and light, transforming her dull existence into a canvas of possibility. But the journey wasn't without its bumps. One evening, as Lena prepared dinner, the doorbell rang, sending Max into a frenzy. He barked and growled, a primal instinct kicking in. Lena rushed to soothe him, but a shadow stretched out in her doorway. The neighbor, Ms. McAllister, stood with concern etched across her face. "Lena, I saw the stray in the yard again yesterday. You really shouldn't be keeping him. He could be dangerous," she warned, casting a wary glance toward Max. That remark struck Lena like ice. Deeper fears settled in, a visceral echo of worries that had remained dormant for too long. She felt the weight of judgment standing there beneath the sterile glare of the porch light, but she looked into Max's eyes and saw trust, loyalty, a promise of love that didn't know fear. "Max is a sweetheart," Lena replied, firm and steady. "He's my companion now." Undeterred by Ms. McAllister's line of questioning, she closed the door, determination sizzling in her veins. No judgment, no fears could sever the bond they had built or the love they shared. In that very moment, she understood that sometimes home isn't just where you sleep, it's where hearts beat as one in harmony. As the weeks spiraled forward, rumors began brewing throughout the neighborhood about the odd trio that had taken over that small house. Some were skeptical, others intrigued, but one particular group began to take notice. Animal organizations and rescue groups soon caught wind of her efforts. Suddenly, Lena found herself at the heart of a burgeoning movement to rescue stray dogs in the area. Her social media presence swelled as she documented her journey, sharing moments of play and happiness, creating a ripple that ignited hope in others. People began to join her cause, raising awareness and fostering a sense of community where once there had been none. Every Saturday, they gathered for adoption events at the local park. The first time they stood together, Lena felt a surge of hope as people approached her table, intrigued by Max and Bella, their tails wagging, delight written all over their faces. Then came the shocking day when a little girl named Emily ran to them, her laughter bouncing through the air. She asked, starry-eyed, holding out a tentative hand. Lena beamed, crouching down so Emily could bond with Max. The joy shared in that moment glowed through the park, a flickering beacon of light, proof of how far they had come. As people began adopting other stray dogs, the community transformed into a nurturing haven for animals once left behind. Lena organized awareness campaigns, bringing residents together for the greater good. Each success story deepened the roots of her own journey, lifting them all. Life bloomed as time warped forward. Seasons changed, laughter echoed in every corner of the house, and the love between Lena, Max, and Bella became the heartbeat of a newfound family. But amid the happiness, every so often, she would remember that cold night, the strays' desperate cries, and how they had forged an unbreakable bond through compassion. One night, looking around her living room filled with the warmth of joy and love, she realized the true power behind that fateful encounter. A dog's cry might have led to the formation of an entire community, to countless lives finding their forever homes. It had become a force of change, a gathering of hopes merging into a single bright light. At that moment, Lena sat back, her heart swelling with gratitude. She knew that every tear shed, every plea thrown into the darkness had been a catalyst for unimaginable growth. She had been the rescue, but in truth, it was they who had rescued her from the depths of isolation and longing. So the world shook with stories waiting to be told, moments waiting to be lived. Remember always, sometimes a stray dog crying at your door isn't just a call for help. It's a call to open your heart wide and step into the unknown, where the real adventure begins. In the quiet of a dimly lit suburban street, just as the day surrendered to the embrace of night, a heart-wrenching sound pierced the silence and anguished whimper, reverberating like the echoes of a lost soul. A stray dog stood at the door of a small house, his thin body trembling and his eyes large, wide, and pleading. Each cry was a desperate plea for help, a cry that seemed to awaken the neighborhood's hidden sorrows. Inside, Anna was immersed in her routine, her world narrowed down to the flickering screen of her laptop. She was losing herself in another work project, tired and drained from the endless cycle of emails, meetings, and deadlines. The dog's cries tore through her concentration, each note like a seed of guilt that began to sprout in her heart. She swiveled in her chair, glancing toward the sound, but in that moment fatigue took precedence. "Not now," she muttered, turning back to her work, wishing away the interruption. But the dog's cries grew more desperate, breaking through her defenses, clawing at the layers of apathy she had cocooned herself in. Finally yielding to conscience, Anna stood up and made her way to the door. As she opened it, a rush of cool air swept past her, swirling with the scent of damp earth and autumn leaves. Her heart skipped a beat as her eyes fell upon the dog, emaciated, dirty, and alone. His fur hung in matted clumps, but what captured her gaze wasn't just the dog. It was what lay behind him, a sight that sent shockwaves through her entire being. Tucked away in the shadows of the porch, a tiny bundle of fur lay shivering and whimpering a puppy. Its tiny frame trembled with fear, eyes wide with uncertainty as it pressed itself against the cold ground. The sight was both heartbreaking and electrifying. In an instant, everything changed. "Oh no," Anna gasped, the air thickening in her throat as she knelt down to get a better look. She could hardly believe what she saw, a stray dog and a puppy both in desperate need of care. The image hit her with stunning clarity. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a moment of urgency, a call to action hidden behind the mundane curtain of her daily life. The stray dog moved closer, watching her with an intensity that spoke volumes. She thought for a moment, her mind racing back to images of pets abandoned and forgot. She could still remember her childhood dog, a loyal companion who had saved her through her darkest days. The memory felt warm, but now the chill of reality came rushing back. Anna reached out a trembling hand toward the puppy, who recoiled at first, its instincts kicking in. But then, feeling the warmth of her hand, it took a tentative step forward. "You're safe," she whispered softly, her voice wrapping around the little creature like a protective blanket. As the puppy nuzzled against her palm, the stray dog watched intently, a look of what could only be described as gratitude glossing across its weary face. Anna's heart swelled, a calloused heart suddenly yearning for connection. In a moment of clarity, she made her choice. "Come on." Gently, she scooped up the trembling puppy, cradling it against her chest. The stray dog followed closely, tail wagging despite the anxiety that still coursed through him. The simple act of compassion had ignited a spark within her, something she thought she had buried long ago. Once back inside, the warmth enveloped her like a soft cocoon. Anna led them to the kitchen, where she filled a bowl with water and searched through the fridge for something they could eat. She rummaged through leftovers, finally finding a bit of chicken she could share. As she laid it down in front of them, Max the stray devoured it in a heartbeat, urgency pounding through him. Bella the puppy nibbled cautiously, glancing up at Anna with wide, innocent eyes. "Oh, sweetheart," Anna cooed, kneeling again on the floor. "You have so much love to give." It dawned on her then that this moment wasn't just about saving two stray animals. It was about rediscovering the strength she thought she had lost. It was about connection, the very touchstone of human experience. And with that realization, the walls she had built around her emotions began to crumble. The very act of caring for these dogs felt transformative. With each moment that passed, she felt a piece of herself returning, one she thought had faded into the monotony of adulthood. The days that followed evolved into an unexpected journey. Anna discovered that caring for Max and Bella wasn't just a task, it became an intricate dance of love and laughter. She found herself waking up each morning with purpose, greeted by the excited barks of Max as he wagged his tail like a pendulum. Bella, full of innocence and energy, bounded around the house, discovering every nook and cranny as if the world was her playground. As her connection with them deepened, so did the bonds within her. She began taking them to the local park, where their joy was a spectacle. Yet she noticed something: other dogs in the neighborhood roamed the streets. Some were timid, some bold, but they all shared a common thread: abandonment. Anna's heart ached for them, a realization stirring within her. One bright Saturday morning, while Max and Bella chased after fallen leaves, laughter erupted from a nearby gathering. Families were there for a community event. Food stalls lined the park, but what caught Anna's eye was a small booth adorned with bright colors and posters about animal rescue. People were gathered, petting and playing with dogs that had once known the pain of neglect. The scene stirred a burgeoning hope in Anna's heart, and before she knew it, she found herself walking toward the booth, Max and Bella trailing close behind. When she spoke with the volunteers, a fire ignited within her, a passion to help those still lost, just like Max and Bella once were. The realization washed over her. What if she could do more? What if she could rally neighbors and friends to create a wave of change to uplift those without a voice? Suddenly, the world outside her house felt bigger, bursting with possibilities. She envisioned a community-driven mission to rescue strays, help them find safe havens, and perhaps even create a network to increase awareness. So began the operations from her own kitchen table phone calls, emails, flyers, and early morning meetings. Her commitment captured the neighborhood's imagination. Little by little, people joined her cause, some donating time and resources, others giving their homes to rescue dogs, reviving spirits once extinguished by neglect. Weeks turned into months, and one evening, as she relaxed on her porch with Max and Bella snuggled beside her, she caught sight of a group of children playing. They were laughing, their energy uncontained as they chased after a dog that had just been rescued. The sight melted her heart. Suddenly, laughter quickly turned into worry. The rescue pup darted past them, and as if unaware of its surroundings, it ran right into the busy street. In a flash, a car approached fast too fast. Anna's heart raced as she leapt from her chair, instinct taking over. Max, sensing the danger, took off at lightning speed. He was a blur, his powerful legs propelling him forward as he raced into the fray. The moment felt stretch time itself bending as Anna watched, breath caught in her throat. With a fierce bark, Max intercepted the pup just in time, guiding it back onto the sidewalk, away from harm. The car screeched to a halt, tires skidding against the asphalt. Relief crashed over Anna like a wave. She rushed to them, heart pounding. "Good boy, Max," she exclaimed, tears pooling in her eyes as she hugged him tight. Bella tugged her leash, eager to join the whirlwind of excitement. The children, too, embraced the rescue, eyes wide with admiration, their laughter resonating through the air like a symphony. In that moment, Anna realized something far beyond what she had ever understood. Max wasn't just protecting a playmate. He was embodying everything she had longed to restore: the deep connection, the act of courage, and the pure joy of community. Every Instagram post, every phone call to shelters, every moment spent organizing had coalesced into this fragment of life, a moment where love intertwined with bravery. With Max and Bella at her side, Anna felt her mission had grown larger than herself and her animals. It was a cause that transcended barriers, beckoning everyone to join hands and help those voiceless animals that brought so much joy even in their darkest hours. Little did she know, the ripples of her actions would reverberate far beyond Maple Street. As communities grew, so did the awareness, each action evolving into a broader movement for animal welfare. Families rallied around the cause, supporting local shelters, becoming foster families, and creating programs to ensure the safety of stray animals. Years rolled on, and the chorus of shouts, laughter, and panting turned the old streets vibrant with life. Anna often found herself reflecting on that fateful night, the moment when a stray dog cried at her door, until she noticed the warmth hidden behind him. What began as a small act of kindness had transformed the fabric of her life and of those around her, bringing together a community bound by love for the voiceless. Each bark carrying a story, each wag of a tail representing resilience, and each adoption signifying a new beginning. Sometimes the universe presents us with moments that beckon us to rise. And when we answer that call, the magnitude of love and connection becomes not just a ripple but a powerful wave that can change the world one stray at a time. In the stillness of a quiet suburb, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, a chilling sound broke through the calm of the evening, a heart-wrenching whimper that echoed into the night. At the door of a modest home, a stray dog stood, its fur matted and dirty, its eyes filled with desperate hope. Each cry pierced through the silence, an anguished plea for help, but the dog was not the only one in distress. Just behind him, tucked away in the shadows, lay a tiny bundle trembling in the chilly air. Inside the home, Kate was lost in her own world, her laptop screen illuminating her face as she scrolled through work emails. A week of endless meetings had left her exhausted. The hum of the digital world numbed her senses, wrapping her in a cocoon of indifference. She barely heard the faint cries at first, dismissing them as an unpleasant distraction. Yet with every soft whimper, a distant feeling flickered within her, a tug at her heart, a call for connection. Finally, a louder cry jolted her from her trance. Sitting up straight, Kate turned her head toward the door. Curiosity nudged her, but skepticism fought back. Just like so many others, she often turned her back on the misunderstandings and struggles outside her door. She muttered under her breath, but those desperate cries persisted, drawing her closer to the door. With a sigh, she pushed herself up, deciding to at least see what was going on. As she swung open the door, the cool night air rushed in, carrying the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. Her breath caught in her throat as her eyes fell on the stray dog, trembling and ragged, still crying out for attention. But it was the little puppy behind him that stole her breath away, a small bundle of fur, cowering as if it were trying to disappear into the ground. "Oh no," Kate whispered, her heart lurching. In that instant, she recognized the gravity of the situation. The dog wasn't just crying, he was acting as a shield for something more vulnerable, something that needed their help. She knelt down, reaching out a hand toward the puppy, who flinched but didn't retreat. "Hey there," Kate said softly, her heart aching at the sight. But there was a wall of fear surrounding the little creature. It had witnessed heartache even in its short life. Just as she thought about pulling back, the stray dog moved closer, nudging the puppy with his nose, gently urging it forward. It was a moment of pure instinct, of unwavering love that danced between them. Tears stung at Kate's eyes as she understood the significance of that moment. She took a deep breath and invited them both inside. As she ushered them into her home, something inside her shifted. She had allowed the burdens of her own life to blind her to the needs of others. Here, right at her doorstep, was a reminder of what it truly meant to care, an awakening she desperately needed. Inside, as she set down bowls of water and scraps of food, Max the stray practically inhaled the food, while Bella the puppy tentatively approached her side. Each little movement reflected the flicker of trust they were learning to build. Every day shaped more than their bond. It molded Kate's own heart, slowly thawing the icy routines of her daily life. In the following weeks, their lives intertwined seamlessly. Max became her unwavering shadow, his calm demeanor a balm to her bruised spirit. Bella, with her endless energy, filled the house with laughter and boundless love. Every morning, Kate woke up to the rhythm of wagging tails and playful barks, awakening a feeling she thought had long since faded, a sense of purpose. As their family grew, so did Kate's understanding of community. She started taking Max and Bella to the park, where they'd play fetch among the autumn leaves. The joy was infectious. But she soon noticed other strays prowling the park, dogs looking lost, abandoned to the shadows, and her heart began to ache. She thought of how easily that could have been Max and Bella. One crisp fall afternoon, as leaves danced to the ground, Kate decided enough was enough. She could use her experience, her second chance, to help others just like her furry family. With each passing day, the idea burgeoned, blossoming from a flicker into a vibrant flame, a mission to rescue strays and raise awareness about the plight of lost animals. With renewed purpose, she began organizing small community events to bring attention to the strays in the area, hoping to rally support and foster a sense of compassion. Flyers decorated cafe windows, and social media posts spread throughout the neighborhood, calling for volunteers to help with a local shelter. As she gathered others, she realized her mission was bigger than just rescuing animals. It was about building connections, healing hearts, and creating a network bound by compassion. But just as things began taking shape, reality felt like an uphill battle. There would always be skeptics. One evening, as she prepared to head out to a town hall meeting to present her cause, a familiar face appeared at her door. Mrs. Jenkins, her elderly neighbor, known for her stern demeanor. "Kate," she began, concern etched into her expression, "you really shouldn't be doing this. Those strays could be dangerous." The words stung, ricocheting through Kate's mind like a loaded gun. She understood the fear, but it felt so far removed from the reality she was living. Max and Bella had shown her the depths of loyalty and trust that couldn't be overshadowed by fear. "Mrs. Jenkins," Kate said, her voice steady yet gentle, "I understand your concerns, but just like people, every stray has a story." As the tension hung heavy in the air, Kate caught a glimpse of doubt melting in Mrs. Jenkins' eyes. It wasn't just about the dogs, it was about overcoming the barriers of misunderstanding and fear. "There's more good out there than you realize," Kate added softly, watching as Mrs. Jenkins hesitated. With a sigh, she finally nodded, turning to go, leaving Kate with a flicker of hope. Fueled by this, Kate pushed forward, determined to make her vision a reality. Each weekend, she set up in her backyard, organizing adoption events, fostering strays, and building connections with local shelters. The word spread, and slowly the community began to embrace her vision. More volunteers came on board, drawn by the power of stories and the promise of new beginnings. As autumn rolled into winter, they held their first major event, bringing families together to meet the dogs in need. The dog park buzzed with excitement, laughter blending with eager barks. Amid the chaos, Max and Bella became ambassadors for their furry friends. Their presence softened hearts, breaking down barriers and allowing joy to seep into the nooks of uncertainty. But just as things seemed to click into place, life served up a harsh reminder of just how fragile it could all be. One cold winter night, as snowflakes began to swirl outside, Kate received a call from the local shelter. A litter of puppies was brought in, but their mother hadn't made it. They were too young to survive on their own. The voice on the other end asked, urgency spilling through the line. Without hesitation, Kate's heart answered the call. "I'll take them," she replied, a fire igniting within her. If she could help, she would. A call to action tightened her resolve as she made her way to the shelter. When she arrived, she found the puppies huddled together in a corner, their tiny bodies trembling. Her heart sank, but just as quickly she felt the weight of responsibility. She could give them a safe haven. "You're not alone," she whispered, scooping them up one by one, cradling each tiny body against her heart. When she returned home, Max and Bella sniffed curiously at the newcomers. Max's gentle nature shone through as he approached them, tail wagging slowly. Bella, thrilled by the excitement, bounced happily around the room, her joy infectious. They were learning as much from the puppies as the puppies were learning from them, a lesson in love, compassion, and kindness. Days turned into nights, and Kate found herself exhausted but fulfilled. The little ones required round-the-clock care, but they were slowly thriving under her nurturing aura. The community rallied even harder, donating supplies and providing support. Yet in the midst of joy, sadness loomed close by. One evening, Kate noticed one of the puppy's little whinny became lethargic, her spirit dimming like a fading star. Fear gripped Kate's heart as she rushed her to the vet. With each passing moment, doubts crept in, snaking around her resolve. Would she fail this precious soul? At the vet's office, the doctor's face clouded with concern as he examined Winnie's tiny frame. "She's very sick, Kate," he said gently. Despair threatened to break Kate as she held Winnie in her arms. It was the weight of helplessness that tugged at her insides, but she couldn't give up. "Not now. I'll fight for her," she declared, her voice trembling with determination. And fight she did. The next few days blurred into a whirlwind of medications, check-ins, and hopeful prayers. Winnie had sparked something profound within Kate, a determination to fight for every life. The golden thread of love wove tightly through her heart, fueling her resolve to stand by those who needed her most. Through grace and love, Winnie slowly began to improve. The fire lit within that little pup ignited a ripple of hope in Kate, and soon the entire community became aware of the miraculous story unfolding. It wasn't just the tale of one lost puppy, it was a testament to the resilience of love. As winter melted into spring, the transformation of the entire neighborhood became evident. With each adoption event, every rescued soul found their forever home. And in every corner, people began to understand the true power of connection that bonded them. They were the lifeline for those who had once been cast away. One sunny afternoon, during a gathering to celebrate the success of the community's rescue efforts, Kate stood at the center of it all. Petting Max and Bella, she felt an exhilarating sense of accomplishment swelling in her chest. Every wagging tail, each happy bark resounded with reminders of their journey of struggle, resilience, and extraordinary love. Surrounded by friends old and new, she smiled as they laughed and shared stories about the dogs they had saved. In the crowd, a woman approached, holding a scruffy little dog with timid eyes. "He was abandoned," she whispered softly, a catch in her voice. "I couldn't leave him behind." Tears filled Kate's eyes as the woman recounted her experience. This simple exchange encapsulated everything they had built together. Each animal rescued, each person touched, wove a tapestry of hope that uplifted their small community. That night, as the sun sank low and the sky shimmered with stars, Kate thought of the stray who had first cried at her door, opening the floodgates to change. It had led to a profound realization. Just one act of compassion can ignite a flame that transforms lives. And so, as she sat on her porch, Max resting beside her and Bella sprawled across her lap, Kate held close the lessons learned along their journey. The world outside her familiar walls was filled with hidden stories, heartbeats longing for connection, and voices waiting to be heard. Through one small act, a stray dog crying at her door and a tiny puppy nestled behind, she had discovered a path to bravery, healing, and love. And out of that love, a community began to thrive, proving once and for all that beneath every shadow, light dances on the other side, just waiting for someone to discover it. On a chilly autumn evening, as shadows lengthened and a soft mist curled around the street lamps, a heart-wrenching sound pierced the quiet and agonized whimper. It echoed through the stillness, pulling at the heartstrings of anyone nearby. At the door of a modest little house, a stray dog stood, his thin body trembling and brown eyes wide with desperation. But beyond him, hidden in the shadows, something stirred a hint of movement that nobody seemed to notice. Inside the house, Jenna was lost in a world of her own. She sat curled up on her couch, scrolling through social media, her mind partly engaged in the glimmering screen, partly trapped in the worries of her day. She felt the weight of loneliness pressing down on her, making the walls of her cozy home feel suffocating. But that whimpering cry broke through the fog of her thoughts, each sound a haunting plea for attention. She murmured, irritation creeping into her voice as she put her phone aside. She stood up and walked to the window, peering outside into the growing dark. The mist clung to the ground like a shroud, obscuring her view for a moment. As she leaned closer, the dog appeared more distinct, his sadness glaring against the dim backdrop. Every whimper tugged at her heart, yet skepticism quickly followed. "Just go away," she whispered. She didn't need more interruptions. After all, the world outside her door could be harsh, and she had her own battles to fight. But the dog wouldn't give up. His cries echoed in the still air, a haunting melody that seemed to weave itself into the very fabric of the night. Jenna's heart began to soften, a strange flicker of compassion igniting deep within her. She hesitated for a moment before opening the door, peering out into the unfolding darkness. As the door creaked open, a rush of cold air flooded her senses. The stray dog stood there, fragile and battered, but it was the small figure crouched behind him that made her breath catch. A tiny puppy no more than a few weeks old lay shivering against the cool concrete. Its wide eyes darted back and forth as though looking for an escape. Jenna exclaimed, her voice a mixture of disbelief and empathy. The stray wasn't just crying for himself, he was guarding this little soul, begging for help in a world that had forsaken them both. Jenna knelt down, her heart racing. "Come here, sweetie," she coaxed. The puppy hesitated, fear etched across its tiny face, but the stray pressed forward, nudging the pup gently with his nose, urging it to trust. In that moment, something clicked within Jenna's heart. The warmth of compassion surged through her, overpowering her doubts. She couldn't turn her back on them. "Okay, okay, come inside," she whispered, her voice filled with newfound determination. As she reached out, the puppy took a tiny step forward, seeking warmth and safety. Jenna scooped it up, cradling the fragile creature in her arms while the stray dog followed closely behind. She took them both into her home, feeling as though she had just made a choice that would change everything. Once inside, the atmosphere transformed. Jenna fetched food and water, her heart swelling with the realization of what she was doing. She was saving them. Max, as she would later name the stray, devoured the food with a ferocity that confused her. Bella the puppy cautiously approached, finally trusting Jenna's warmth. She murmured, her voice a soothing balm in the newfound chaos. The scared glances exchanged between Max and Bella told a story of survival, loss, and hope. Days turned into weeks, and the trio formed a bond stronger than Jenna had anticipated. Max, with his gentle and protective nature, helped bring Bella out of her shell, while Bella's playful spirit breathed life into their little home. Signs of happiness began to seep back into Jenna's life. Laughter and joy blossomed in unexpected moments. Just as everything seemed to synchronize, a coldness crept back into the air. Jenna couldn't shake off the feeling that their story was just beginning. One day, while taking Max and Bella for their routine walk in the nearby park, Jenna noticed something unsettling. Stray dogs roamed the neighborhood, some timid, others bold. They scoured through trash, eyes filled with a haunting familiarity. The sight struck a deep chord in her heart. They didn't deserve this. Just like Max and Bella, these dogs were victims of neglect. Jenna felt the passage of time tightening around her as guilt gnawed at her. What if she could help? What if she could turn her small story into something bigger? That evening, the idea unfurled in her mind like a flower reaching for the sun. Jenna spent hours planning, organizing, and reaching out to friends who shared her passion for animals. She envisioned a community united in compassion, a rescue group dedicated to saving strays. But not everyone was on board. When Jenna first pitched the idea to her friends, she met with skepticism. One friend asked, raising an eyebrow, but Jenna felt a conviction growing stronger with each passing moment. "If we can save even one life, it's worth it. It's about compassion," she replied, her voice steady. Deep down, she understood that love knew no boundaries, and sometimes simple acts of kindness could create ripples that reached far beyond what one could imagine. Encouraged by a few close friends, Jenna organized her first event at the local community center. Flyers fluttered in the wind, and soon curiosity led people to gather. On that sunny afternoon, as adrenaline coursed through her veins, she spoke passionately about her mission. She shared Max's story of resilience, the bond he had formed with Bella, and how every life mattered, even those hidden in the shadows. And it worked. People began showing up with donations, supplies, and even stories of their own pets. Hearts were opening, and slowly but surely, a community started to form around her cause. With each new supporter, Jenna felt invigorated, a powerful sense of purpose igniting the path ahead. As the weeks progressed, her small group transformed into a coalition working to rescue strays. They organized adoption events and awareness campaigns, feeling the tide turn in their favor. The message spread like wildfire, resonating deep within the fabric of their community. But just as they began to make a real impact, fate dealt Jenna a cruel hand. One cold, rainy afternoon, while out gathering supplies for their next rescue, she received a devastating call from the local shelter. They had discovered a mother dog and her puppies abandoned, left to fend for themselves. The shelter was full and couldn't take them in. Fear gripped Jenna's heart. "We need to get them," she insisted, determination hardening her resolve. As she pulled on her raincoat, she knew what lay ahead was uncertain, but she was prepared to fight for these lives. Arriving at the shelter, her breath caught in her throat. The mother dog looked exhausted, her eyes dim, but there was determination behind them, a familiar look of survival. Jenna quickly scooped up the first puppy, a small ball of fluff, gently cradling its little body while hoping the mother would feel her warmth. One by one, they gathered, a fragile trove of innocence behind a wall of fear. Jenna knew they would need time to trust her. "You're safe now," she whispered, her heart racing at the enormity of her responsibility. Back at the community center, she quickly set up a safe space for them with cozy blankets and toys. As the days passed, the mother dog, whom she named Cleo, started to relax a little, and the puppies began to explore their newfound home. It was a lesson in patience, one Jenna hadn't anticipated but welcomed with an open heart. Their bond deepened with every passing day. Jenna worked tirelessly to prepare them for adoption, inviting potential families to meet Cleo and her puppies. Each event was met with overwhelming support, and joy rippled through the air as families found their forever companions. But just when things were beginning to settle, tragedy struck again. One of the puppies, a delicate one named Luna, began to lose her spirit. Jenna felt a cold wave wash over her when she noticed her lethargy. They rushed her to the vet, and the diagnosis sent Jenna spiraling. Luna had a severe infection that required immediate treatment. In the cold, sterile confines of the vet's office, fear clawed at Jenna's heart. She fought back tears, knowing she had to stay strong for Luna. "We can get through this," she whispered, her determination unwavering as tears streamed down her cheeks. Luna fought bravely, and through her resilience, Jenna experienced a pivotal shift. She realized how strong the bond of love could truly be, and amidst the turmoil, something beautiful began to emerge. Luna's recovery brought the community closer together, united by the heart-wrenching journey, even as they faced uncertainty together. Jenna started sharing Luna's story, reaching the hearts of those around her. They rallied support, raising funds for her care and contributing to the rescue's progress. The experience galvanized the community in a way that Jenna could never have imagined. Love isn't just about saving lives, it's about fighting for them, Jenna told her supporters as they held a fundraiser that evening. Every tear shed, every moment of vulnerability had strengthened their connection, transformed into a force that drove the mission forward. As spring began to blossom, the tides shifted. Cleo and her puppies found loving homes, while Luna's spirit flared back to life. Jenna learned that each story was a reminder of resilience, an intricate tapestry woven with hope and love. One bright day, as the sun bathed the world in golden light, Jenna stood at the park, surrounded by members of the community. They celebrated their progress, laughter filling the air. People shared tales of their adopted pets, each story intertwined with the lessons they had learned along the way. In that moment, she felt powerful, a force of change driven by compassion. She understood what had begun with a simple cry behind a door had become something profound. As she glanced at Max and Bella, who were happily playing nearby, she felt her heart swell. They had started a movement, bringing together the community in a way she never thought possible. Each rescued animal became a testament to the power of connection, the belief that love could transform lives. That night, as Jenna rested beneath the stars, she realized her journey had only just begun. Together, they would continue to fight for those who had no voice, for the strays still calling out in the darkness, for every moment that whispered the promise of hope. In a world where despair can often suffocate, Jenna emerged as a beacon for those lost and alone, promising to bring forth the light, one rescued heart at a time. It was a quiet evening in a sleepy neighborhood, the kind where the sun dipped below the horizon with a sleepy sigh, casting a warm golden hue over the houses. But peace shattered when an anguished, high-pitched whimper broke through the silence, echoing like a desperate plea lost in the stillness. A stray dog stood at the door of a modest home, thin and scruffy, his body trembling as he cried out into the night. Inside, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by the clutter of her life. Bill's empty coffee cups and the remnants of yesterday's takeout created a landscape of exhaustion. She scrolled through her phone, trying to drown out the chaos of her thoughts. The cries from outside penetrated the haze of her routine, drawing her attention like a whisper in the dark. "Not now," she grumbled, glancing up briefly. The sound was aggravating, pulling her from her bubble of indifference. She just wanted peace after a long week. But a second, more persistent wail reached her ears, more urgent now. Curiosity piqued, she set her phone aside and made her way to the door, pulling it open just a crack enough to peek out. The sight that met her gaze twisted her heart. Lying at the dog's feet was a tiny puppy, trembling and wide-eyed, its small body shivering against the cold ground. The stray dog stood as a sentinel, shielding the pup, his loyalty evident in the way he stared up at Sarah. Sarah whispered, her irritation dissolving into concern. It was cold, and that puppy looked lost and vulnerable, a fragile creature in a heartless world. The larger dog's cries now made sense. He wasn't just begging, he was protecting. Without even thinking, Sarah stepped outside, the chill biting at her skin. She crouched down, trying to take in the reality before her. "Oh my gosh," she murmured, eyeing the pair. The tiny creature met her gaze with wide, frightened eyes, and it took everything in Sarah not to scoop it up right then and there. But she hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at her. She glanced back at her disheveled home, the hurried life she'd built around herself. Could she really handle this? But the whimpers continued, and it felt like each cry was embedding itself in the very fabric of her being. "Okay," she finally said, her voice thick with emotion. She reached down slowly and scooped the puppy into her arms. It felt so small, so fragile. The stray dog looked relieved, tail wagging, and suddenly Sarah felt a rush of warmth blooming within her. "Let's get you both inside," she said, opening the door wider. As she led them inside, the stray dog followed without hesitation, a loyal guardian at her heels. Once they were inside, Sarah set down the puppy, who immediately began to explore its new surroundings, albeit cautiously. The stray dog watched closely, taking a protective stance nearby as if assessing this new territory. Sarah hurried to fill a bowl with water and found some old dog food from her pantry. She offered it to the stray first. He devoured it eagerly, his eyes brightening with gratitude. "You must be so hungry," Sarah said softly, kneeling down beside him. It felt surreal, this moment her lonely life abruptly transformed by the presence of these two animals. As she watched the stray eat, she felt a shift happening within her. This wasn't just about rescuing them, it was about rediscovering a part of herself she thought had vanished. The puppy, now more comfortable, stumbled over to join them, sniffing curiously at the stray. A warm, protective instinct surged within Sarah. She pondered aloud, looking between them. "Max, and for you." The names felt fitting, and as she spoke, a smile crept across her face. Days turned into weeks, and a beautiful bond slowly formed among the trio. Max became her shadow, always by her side, observant, protective, and gentle. Bella, despite her initial fears, blossomed into a playful, energetic spirit, filling the house with life and laughter. Yet one afternoon, as Sarah walked them through the nearby park, she caught sight of something troubling. Stray dogs wandered the park, scavenging through trash, their eyes darting around with uncertainty and fear. A knot tightened in her stomach. So many were lost and alone, just as Max and Bella once had been. Her heart ached for them all, and it sparked something deep within her. A flicker of determination ignited. They had been rescued, but what about those still out there? What if she could do something more? That evening, Sarah sat down at her kitchen table, pulling out notebooks and pens. With each stroke of her pen, the idea took shape, a community-supported rescue effort for strays. She felt the flicker of hope turn into a flame, filling the room with warmth. She worked tirelessly over the next weeks, reaching out to local shelters and fellow animal lovers. She learned about the plight of strays, gathered information from organizations, and created flyers to spread the word. Every time she looked at Max and Bella, she felt reinforced in her resolve. They had inspired her, and now it was time to give back. One Saturday, with flyers in hand, she set up a booth at the local farmers' market. The vibrant atmosphere buzzed with life, and as she spoke passionately to anyone who would listen, people began to gather. She shared her own story, how rescuing Max and Bella changed her life, how love had transformed her loneliness into connection. Slowly, people began to step forward, sharing their own experiences. They were captivated by her enthusiasm, her fierce passion igniting their hearts. More than that, they began to discuss ways to help each other, pooling resources and ideas, forging bonds over a common goal. But as the excitement grew, so did skepticism. One woman, known for her critical eye, approached Sarah one afternoon. She challenged skepticism, lacing her voice. Sarah felt a pang of doubt shoot through her, but she held her ground. "One life at a time," she replied, her voice steady. "If we can help even one dog, it makes a difference." With each event she organized, the community grew more engaged. More people came to support the cause, and more stray animals found their way into her life. It began to create a ripple effect in the neighborhood, transforming apathy into action. As winter approached, things grew more urgent. Every day, stray dogs and cats appeared, seeking warmth from the harsh cold. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, an awareness she couldn't shake off. One particular evening, as the snow began to fall, she took Max and Bella for a walk. The weather was biting and a chill ran through her bones. But as they strolled through the park, she spotted a shivering form huddled against a tree, an abandoned dog, eyes wild and fearful. Her heart dropped. "Come on, Max, we need to help," Sarah whispered, her voice sounding foreign even to her ears. With hesitant yet determined steps, she approached the dog, who growled softly, a last resort to scare them away. "Hey, it's okay, you're safe now," she coaxed gently, kneeling to appear less threatening. Max sat beside her, his presence a calming force. After what felt like an eternity, the dog cautiously edged closer, curiosity overcoming fear. As Sarah reached out her hand, the dog sniffed cautiously, inching closer until finally it allowed her to touch its matted fur. "Got you," she murmured, the sense of warmth growing inside her as she felt the dog relax. This was what it meant to care, to connect, to fight for those who had been forgotten. That experience ignited a fire. She took the new dog home and named him Charlie. He was timid but eager to trust, mirroring the journey she had experienced herself. The warmth of Charlie's spirit began to mend the gap that loneliness had left in her heart. But with every life she saved, more hidden struggles lurked in the shadows. As they continued to rescue more dogs, funds dwindled and uncertainty loomed over the organization. Sarah felt the weight of the challenge growing heavier. One evening, while organizing another adoption event, a voice echoed through the air, sharp with criticism. The critics scoffed. The comments rattled her. Thoughts of inadequacy crept in, threatening to shake her determination. But she took a deep breath, grounding herself in the affection she had for all her rescued dogs. "Every life matters," she replied, voice strong. And just when doubt began to seep in, fate offered its hand. An unexpected donation came through a local business that admired her perseverance had decided to contribute. With renewed vigor, the community rallied even more around her cause, launching fundraising efforts to provide shelter and resources for those still in need. As the months rolled on, Sarah found herself surrounded by thriving dogs and a growing team of volunteers. Each rescue was a reminder of resilience, and with each family who took home a new pet, hope blossomed, filling the space that once felt so empty. Yet as spring emerged, so did challenges. One day, while holding a small event in the park, she received a frantic call from a shelter. A litter of puppies had been abandoned, left in a box with no care. Before she knew it, Sarah was on the road yet again, urgently racing to the shelter. Her pulse quickened as she arrived, scooping up each puppy, their soft whimpers echoing through her heart. They were so small, so vulnerable, their lives dependent on her choices. With each puppy she gathered, a fierce determination grew inside her. She was building a legacy one rescue at a time, a community stitched together by hope and love. As summer approached and the flowers blossomed, the organization flourished, scarring the landscape with change. Families celebrated their new companions, their lives transformed by the act of adoption, raising awareness about the abandoned and the lost. On one bright, sun-soaked afternoon, Sarah held an adoption event in the park filled with laughter, chatter, and the playful barks of grateful dogs. As she stood amid the joy, her heart swelled, seeing so many lives interwoven through the simple act of rescue. With Max and Bella by her side, she surveyed the park, feeling the pulse of the community around her, a living tapestry stitched with love, compassion, and unwavering dedication. In that moment, she understood it wasn't just about the dogs. They had begun to change lives beyond their own. Each stray that cried at the door, each figure curled up in fear, all had the potential to bloom into extraordinary stories if given the chance. And from that stray dog who first cried at her door, the journey had taken her on a path of redemption and purpose. They had opened her heart, revealed her true strength, and forged a community that chose love over indifference. As the sun began to set behind the trees, drenching the park in hues of orange and pink, Sarah realized that the most profound moments of change often start with a desperate cry for help, a reminder that sometimes in the shadows lies potential more profound than words could convey. In every cry, every wagging tail, there is hope waiting to be uncovered one dog at a time. The soft glow of lights flickered through the window, illuminating the scattered piles of laundry and neglected dishes inside the cozy dining room. It was just another ordinary evening for the Davis family, but that serenity was soon to be shattered. A sudden, heart-wrenching whimper pierced the quiet night. At the door stood a stray dog, his matted fur coated in dirt and his eyes filled with anguish. Each pathetic cry echoed through the air, a poignant mix of desperation and hope. But just behind him in the shadows lay something else, a small, crumpled shape barely visible in the dim light. Inside, Emily sat on the edge of the couch, tapping away on her phone and half listening to a show playing in the background. The sound of the dog's cries cut through her focus like a hot knife, momentarily pulling her attention away from the screen. She glanced up, her irritation flickering to life like a candle in the wind. "Not now," she muttered under her breath, turning back to her phone. But the cries grew louder, each yelp laced with an urgency that made her stomach twist. What was wrong with that dog? Reluctantly, Emily decided to investigate. She pushed herself off the couch and made her way to the front door, peering through the glass. The sight struck her directly in the chest, the pitiful dog pleading for help, but that shape behind him? She squinted and her heart dropped. Huddled in the shadows lay a tiny puppy, no more than a few weeks old, shivering violently. It pressed itself against the ground as though it wished to become one with the earth. Panic surged through Emily. Oh no. Instinctively, she opened the door wide and the night air rushed inside, wrapping her in a cold embrace. "Hey there, pup," she whispered, crouching down, but assessing the stray dog's untrusting eyes made her hesitate. Just as she was ready to reach out, the mother dog leaped forward, placing himself protectively between her and the tiny puppy. Okay, I get it," Emily said quickly, raising her hands in surrender. "I won't hurt you." That was when Emily noticed a change in the atmosphere. The stray dog, Max, seemed to sense her sincerity. He relaxed slightly, giving a soft whimper in response to her words. The puppy dared to peek out from behind him, its innocent eyes wide with curiosity. With her heart racing, Emily slowly extended her hand toward the puppy. "Come here, little one," she coaxed. And just like that, the puppy stepped forward, trembling slightly but unable to resist. She scooped the little creature into her arms, feeling the warmth of its small body, and as if on cue, Max moved closer, his eyes filled with relief. "It's okay now," she said soothingly, her heart swelling with compassion. It was a bizarre sense of connection, but in that moment, as she looked into the stray's trusting eyes, Emily felt a purpose awaken deep inside her. Once inside, she set the puppy down gently on the floor, watching as it tentatively explored its surroundings. Max stood by her side, tail wagging slowly, an expression of gratitude lighting up his face. The warmth of her home enveloped them, and Emily wasted no time. She ran to grab some water and food. "Here you go," she said, placing the bowls down before them. To her surprise, Max nearly devoured his meal, while the puppy, now named Bella, hesitantly approached the food, sniffing the air with such cautious curiosity. In the coming days, Emily felt their bond deepening. Each morning began with the sound of paws scratching on the hardwood floor, and the sight of two furry companions filled her with a joy she hadn't experienced in ages. Max became her constant shadow, always watching over Bella, who was beginning to come out of her shell, gaining confidence and warmth with each passing day. However, an unsettling sensation lingered beneath the surface. Emily had cautiously glanced at her neighbor's house, where she had noticed shadows moving in and out. She'd heard rumors about the abandoned dogs in the area, but the truth felt bigger than she could comprehend. One evening, while out on a walk with Max and Bella, a familiar figure loomed up ahead. It was Mrs. Henderson, her elderly neighbor. The elderly woman asked, suspicion clouding her voice. "They need love and care," Emily replied, holding her head high. "They were abandoned." Mrs. Henderson scoffed, her brows knitting together. "Well, you better keep them away from my yard." Emily felt the heat rise in her cheeks as Mrs. Henderson continued down the path, leaving her to wonder what else lay hidden beneath the surface. Days turned into weeks, and Emily was committed to giving Max and Bella the love they deserved. Yet one evening, just as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, she noticed odd behavior from Max. He barked restlessly at the door, eyes darting back and forth, a sense of urgency emanating from him. She asked, opening the door. The night was quiet, but as she stepped outside, she caught a glimpse of movement. Max's bark grew sharper, and without thinking, she followed him down the porch steps, the cool night air embracing her. As she turned the corner of the house, her breath caught in her throat. There, hidden from view, stood another stray, a large dog, its fur tangled and gray. It was clearly a survivor, yet there was something haunting about its eyes, emptiness clouding its spirit. Emily's heart raced as she approached. "Hey there, big guy," she murmured, kneeling down cautiously. But even as she reached out, the dog growled, backing away into the shadows. Max stood at her side, not barking but watching with a protective gaze. "Something is wrong," Emily whispered, sensing it in the air. Yet as she turned her head, a sound caught her attention. A soft whimper echoed from behind the large dog. She squinted and realized the truth. There was something else behind him, hidden in the darkness. She urged, trying to reassure the stray. "It's okay." Her words hung thick in the air, and she dared to take a step forward. As she edged closer, the realization hit her like a jolt. Puppies, tiny, trembling puppies huddled together, shivering against the cold. Emily's eyes widened in horror and compassion all at once. "Oh no," she gasped, her heart racing. Suddenly, the large dog, clearly their mother, relaxed, sensing her intentions. It nudged the puppies forward, urging them into the light, and as they stumbled into view, Emily gasped. There were 5 of them, each small and fragile, desperately trying to find warmth against the night. Emily exclaimed, excitement blending with urgency. Her heart raced as she dropped to her knees, gently gathering the puppies in her arms. Their tiny bodies trembled against her. As she turned back, she caught a glimpse of the mother dog. Something in her expression shifted. She was no longer a threat, but a guardian, desperate to protect her young ones. The chaotic whirlwind of emotions hit Emily like a wave. She couldn't turn her back on them. The need to save these innocent lives lit a fire within her. "Come on, girl," she said to the mother, gently coaxing her forward. The mother hesitated for a moment, but then stepped forward, following Emily and the pups. They entered the house as if rising from a dark ocean, pulled toward the warmth that only a safe haven could provide. Once inside, the jitters in Emily's stomach calmed slightly. She placed the puppies in a warm corner while the mother dog lay protectively by their side. She worried, glancing at the small frenzy of fur and life. Max and Bella approached softly, sniffing the orphaned puppies with curiosity. A small whimper came from one of the pups, instinctively drawing the mother closer. Emily took a breath, knowing she had to act quickly. As she fumbled for her phone and began a search for animal shelters or rescues in the area, she felt an urgency rising within her. The world could be harsh, but a small spark of hope ignited every time she looked at those puppies. Just as she was ready to hit call, the doorbell rang, startling her. She wondered, but deep down, she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What if it was Mrs. Henderson again? She opened the door carefully, but found herself face to face with a pair of serious-looking men dressed in uniforms. One of them asked. Emily's heart raced as they exchanged looks. She asked nervously, glancing back at the commotion behind her. The other man inquired, suspicion knitting his brow. Emily's stomach dropped. No, but before she could finish, a growl erupted from Max, standing fiercely beside her. Bella barked, unsettling the newcomers. Emily felt the tension in the air shift drastically. "We've had reports of strays roaming around," one officer said, his voice authoritative. Emily snapped, fury rising within her. "These dogs need help, you can't just..." But as she stood there, torn between defending her newfound family and the looming threat of authority, uncertainty gripped her heart. Just then, a puppy whimpered loudly from behind her, drawing the men's eyes. "Ma'am, we need to see what's going on," the second officer insisted, stepping through the doorway. In that moment, everything around her felt like it was unraveling. Emily had just fought to save these lives, and now everything was on the line. Would they be taken away back to a cold, abandoned existence? With her heart hammering in her chest, she faced the growing storm. "You don't understand," she pleaded, fear mixing with resolve. But just as she was ready to make a stand, she realized the mother dog stood fiercely in front of her gathered pups, growling low. Suddenly, with surprising agility, she lunged toward the officers, teeth bared, a protective warrior fighting to defend her family. Emily shouted, but it was too late. The situation spiraled out of control. The officers stepped back, alarmed, and in that moment, Emily knew she had to act. She could either stand by and watch them take the dogs away or fight for those lives that had suddenly become the anchor of her world. Her heart raced as she felt adrenaline surging through her veins. She had to make a choice. Time felt like it was suspended, every second stretching into eternity. With Max and Bella flanking her and the pack of puppies milling around her legs, she took a step forward, determination igniting in her heart. She declared, and as the officers exchanged glances, Emily sensed the weight of her words hanging in the air, a fierce battle brewing not just outside, but within her. Would she stand up and fight for every stray who had ever cried out in the dark, risking everything she had built? In that critical heartbeat, Emily realized she wasn't just fighting for Max and Bella or these puppies. It was a struggle for love and belonging in a world that so often turned its back. And just as the tension reached a boiling point, a faint whimper echoed behind her. What would happen next could change everything for her, for the dogs, and for the life she had begun to build. In that moment, the stakes had never felt higher. As she stood her ground, the future trembled on a knife's edge, waiting for a decision that could send shockwaves rippling through her life. Would she choose courage or fear? The answer lay just beyond the door of uncertainty, ready to unfold.